So, after Sunday's sermon at Agape Community Church, Pastor Florin's message from Hebrews 3 really made me stop and think.
Yeah, me too.
He just kept hitting that word, today. And it just resonated long after service.
He really did. And, that's kind of the whole mission for this deep dive, right? To take those insights from the sermon and unpack what they actually practically mean for our lives. Because, especially for younger folks trying to figure things out, careers, life stuff.
Oh, yeah, the pressure.
Exactly. There's this huge pressure to have your whole future mapped out. And it just leads to so much anxiety about what's next, or maybe regret about the past.
Totally.
And Pastor Florin's focus on living right now and today, it just cuts through all that noise. It feels, almost countercultural.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're headed. This isn't just about, knowing stuff in your head.
Yeah.
It's about how you actually live, rolling up your sleeves. And it links up so well with this whole idea of apprenticing under Jesus. Hands-on. Yeah, a hands-on, day-by-day way of learning and living out faith. So let's dig into that. What it means to be the carpenter's apprentice.
Okay, so what's really powerful, I think, is Pastor Florin zeroing in on today. It's not just a casual word choice.
No, it felt significant.
It's absolutely foundational to Christian faith. Think about the resurrection of Jesus. That's the hinge, right?
The turning point.
Exactly. The Apostle Paul even wrote, if Christ wasn't raised, our faith is basically pointless, futile.
Wow, yeah.
But because he did rise, everything changes. Everything becomes possible today. It's not just history. It's a present reality. It defines this moment.
And that's the practical bit we often miss, isn't it? Like yesterday, it's done, gone. You can't change it.
Nope.
And tomorrow, well, who knows? It's not guaranteed. So today literally is all we actually have, which is such a challenge to how we normally live, right? Constantly thinking about the future, worrying or replaying the past, anywhere but here.
Precisely. And, the original letter of Hebrews, it was written to people facing serious stuff. Persecution, pressure to go back to old ways.
Right. Real challenges.
So the message of today wasn't just some nice thought, it was a lifeline. A call to be faithful now, engage now.
Right.
And what Pastor Florin brought out, which is so relevant for us today, is how that ancient wisdom gives us a solid way to handle our pressures, our uncertainties.
Okay, so let's unpack who we are then in Jesus. Hebrews 3, those first few verses, make some really extraordinary statements.
It's mind-blowing, really.
Yeah. First, holy brothers and sisters. And Pastor Florin made it super clear. Holy doesn't mean flawless.
Right, not perfect.
It means set aside for a sacred purpose. Use the analogy of fine china.
Yeah.
You don't use it every day, right?
Yeah.
It's special, precious, purposeful. Think about how radical that is in a world that tells you your worth is based on what you do or what you own.
It changes the whole game. It's not about perfection, it's about purpose. Seeing the ordinary as sacred.
Yeah. And then it says we're part of God's family.
Which, back then, family was everything. Your identity, your security, your whole world.
Exactly. So being brought into God's family, that offers this incredibly deep belonging. It's an antidote to the loneliness and, conditional acceptance a lot of people feel.
Such a grounding thing, a deep rootedness.
Totally. And then share in the heavenly calling. Whoa.
Yeah, that was huge.
It's more than just, hey, come along. It's like we're called to inherit all of creation with Jesus as the supreme king.
God created everything aiming to share it with us, with Jesus at the center.
It's almost too big to grasp, isn't it? It completely flips the script on our purpose and what we think is possible.
And that's why the writer immediately emphasizes Jesus' supremacy, that he's greater than Moses.
Okay, yeah, that comparison.
Moses was faithful, absolutely, but as a servant in God's house. Jesus, he's the son, he's the architect, the builder of the house.
Well, okay.
And that house is God's household, and we're part of it. Moses testified about things to come, but Jesus is the Word, the radiance of God's glory. Infinite, eternal. It's not just theology, it's super practical. It shows why our future, our security right now, our hope, it all rests completely on Jesus. He's not just showing the way, he is the way and the destination.
Okay, so if that's our identity, holy family, called to inherit, with Jesus as the foundation, then the main instruction makes perfect sense. Fix your thoughts on Jesus. Pastor Florin called it a laser beam focus, a kind of mental stubbornness. It sounds really active, not passive.
Definitely active.
But what makes that so hard? I mean, in our world, with phones buzzing and everything.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Our attention is pulled in 1,000 directions.
Yeah.
So to fix our thoughts means deliberately choosing where we look, intentionally redirecting. And it's vital because, well, everything hangs on him. He's the center.
Right.
So fixing our thoughts on him means consciously submitting, learning about him, digging into who he is, asking questions, being curious, letting yourself be drawn to him, even with all the noise.
So it's a daily thing, a pursuit.
Absolutely. A conscious choice against the flow of distraction.
And Pastor Florin's analogy was so good. When darkness comes, anxiety, fear, doubt, fix your thoughts on Jesus like a sailor fixes their eyes on the lighthouse in a storm.
Powerful image.
It's not just a nice idea. It feels like a core practice for this apprenticeship we're talking about.
Right.
It's how you learn to navigate the storms of life, the information overload, all that pressure. You're kind of rebuilding your inner world around him.
Mm-hmm. Finding stability there, which leads right into the warning, doesn't it?
Yeah, the flip side.
Do not harden your heart. The Holy Spirit says this right there in Hebrews 3. And heart back then wasn't just feelings.
No, he said it was like the core of you, your will, your mind, your deepest self.
Exactly, the totality of your inner being. So don't harden your heart is a serious warning. Don't let that core part of you become unresponsive, closed off.
And he talked about what causes that hardening, like concrete setting. Remember?
Yeah.
Three things. First, the deceitfulness of sin,
Mm-hmm.
how it kind of creeps in, makes us numb, closed off, often looks harmless at first.
Mm-hmm. Second, unbelief. Not always outright saying, I don't believe, but maybe a stubbornness, a refusal to respond even when you hear truth, or just a quiet cynicism that stops you engaging.
Right. A passive resistance almost.
And third, turning away from the living God. Basically trusting your future to chance or to things that can't deliver, just drifting spiritually.
And the sermon tied that straight back to the Israelites in the desert. They were there, physically part of God's people, saw miracles.
Yeah, but didn't enter the promised land.
Right, because of unbelief and disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so relevant for us. You can be a church member. You can say you follow Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But if your heart grows distant, subtly unbelieving, unresponsive, you miss the fullness of what God has for you today.
It's a real practical warning for all of us. Stay open, stay receptive amidst all the noise and pressure.
Exactly, which is another key practice for the apprentice, right? Keeping that open-minded, receptive spirit towards God's voice. And that openness, that receptivity, it connects directly to the next part. Community. Encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today.
Yeah, not just a nice suggestion, it's an instruction. Vital, especially when the world pushes isolation.
Or just superficial online stuff.
Right, and the practical application, it's profound. It means actively building someone else up, speaking life into their struggles, supporting them, inspiring them.
Reminding them who they are in Jesus.
Yes, and pointing them back to him. In a world obsessed with individual achievement, this is radically interdependent. We are absolutely not meant to do this alone.
It hits that deep need for real connection, doesn't it? Especially
Right.
for young people trying to find their footing.
Totally. It's the third crucial practice for the apprentice. Living out your faith in real, messy, authentic community.
Okay, so let's pull it all together. For the carpenter's apprentice, for living today intentionally, Pastor Florin basically gave us 3 daily actions, or maybe daily disciplines. First, fix your thoughts on Jesus.
Yeah.
That constant recentering, redirecting your attention moment by moment.
Yep.
Second, do not harden your heart. Commit your life. Stay listening for the Holy Spirit. Stay soft, receptive to truth, fighting that drift towards being closed off by sin or unbelief.
Stay tender-hearted.
Yeah. And third, encourage one another daily. Actively bring people to Jesus and bring Jesus to people. Building real community.
That's it. Those 3 things. That's the heart of being an apprentice under Jesus. It's not just about agreeing with ideas, though belief is key.
Right.
It's about actively practicing his way, day by day, moment by moment. It's that hands-on faith that builds real resilience against anxiety, uncertainty, all the pressures we feel. It's how you really learn to live in and transform your today.
And that's the huge takeaway, isn't it? So liberating. Today is your opportunity, your moment to respond. Everything who you are, your purpose, your hope, your eternal future, it all rests on Jesus. His resurrection changes everything. It makes today count.
Which leaves a really important question for you listening right now. In a world that's always pulling you back to yesterday's regrets or forward into tomorrow's worries, what does truly living today with the intention of an apprentice look like for you?
Good question.
How can these daily practices, fixing your thoughts on Jesus, keeping your heart soft, encouraging others, how can they actually transform your today into something deeply purposeful, something resilient?
We really hope this deep dive into Pastor Florin's sermon has been helpful for you. Seriously, if it sparks something, maybe share it with a friend.
Yeah, these conversations matter.
They really do. And hey, if you have things you'd like prayer for, please submit them online at agapechurch.life. We have a prayer team, and they'd be genuinely honored to pray specifically for you.
Absolutely.
Also, check out our YouTube channel. It's still a work in progress. We're learning, but it's getting better.
Getting there.
Thanks so much for joining us for the deep dive.